Hello and welcome to my sunny garden here in lovely Norfolk. I'm here with Alison Hornsby as I thought it would be a great way of summing up what you've been learning over the last 2 weeks with Alison in her lunchtime lessons. I don't know about you, but I found them really useful, and there were a few questions I thought that some of you might like me to ask her about various issues and common problems that a lot of us have on a day-to-day basis with our dogs. You may have noticed in the videos that Alison was working with Van, who is a 1-year-old Canine Partners Assistance dog, and I'd like Alison to tell us a bit more about him in a minute. But Alison, as you probably know, has worked with Canine Partners and guide dogs for many years and is currently consultant with Canine Partners, having trained the dogs and the trainers to train the dogs. So there isn't much at all that Alison doesn't know about dogs and how we should all be looking after them. So welcome Alison.
Thank you.
And welcome Van.
Oh, young man.
I know that Van had quite an interesting start to life, and I thought people might be interested to know about that, and also about the path that he takes during his journey in trying to be a canine assistance dog.
Okay, well, as you know already, this is Van. He's a year old, a purebred Labrador, bred by Canine Partners specifically for the purpose of training him to be a future working dog with a disabled person. Temperament is all with the Labrador, and he has got a lovely temperament. He's willing to learn, and I can't take credit for Van's behaviour. He's been with one of our volunteer puppy rearers, Rowena Brown, and she's done a lovely job with him. He's only been with us since lockdown and is just sort of finishing off his training before he goes into advanced work at one of the 2 centres that concentrates on training Canine Partners for disabled people. So he's only with us for a few more weeks probably. Hopefully once lockdown's lifted he will enter training. The early stages of his life are purely socialisation and basic training, and hence you can see someone's really concentrated on his basic training, which is why he does appear on the whole very good.
Now Alison, I know that a big part of your philosophy is that we should all be thinking like a dog. We should be thinking dog, not human. And I know that you want everybody to be applying this more to the way we handle our dogs, and that way we'll get much more success. So I was thinking of lots of problems that we may all be finding with our dogs, and so I thought I'd write them all down so that I didn't forget any, because I had a lot I wanted to ask you about. So I was thinking a main problem that quite a few people seem to struggle with is when people come to the door at their house and their dogs are going crazy and charging at the door and charging at the guests as they're trying to let them into the door, which is a bit of an embarrassing thing when your dog does this. But first of all, why is the dog doing it? What is the dog thinking?
Okay, well, most of us have had our dogs either from a puppy or from a young dog or even a rescue dog. When they were a puppy, all your visitors, let's face it, came to see them. They didn't come to see you. And so it promoted that dog into feeling it's the most important thing. And when people arrive to your house, it's all about me and it's exciting. And so why shouldn't I be the first to the door to greet them? And why shouldn't I get all the attention? And initially, yes, you're wanting to teach them to be friendly with strangers or people they've not met before. But there then comes a point where your dog has gained size, weight, strength, and the behaviour deteriorates, and from being a nice gentle hello it becomes a mugging. So what we need to do is teach our dogs to have a little bit of self-control, and one of the easiest ways to deal with this issue is to have a lead and some treats by the front door, always handy to use when you need them. That way, as soon as the doorbell goes, yes, your dog will get there before you do. You quietly clip it on the lead, ask your dog to sit, to open the door and throw a treat behind the dog, and then the dog is thinking about going backwards rather than going forwards to greet. And if you just chuck a few treats on the floor, it keeps the dog busy whilst those people are entering, and then the next thing you can ask them, because we've all trained it beautifully over the last few weeks, is to sit, using that command that you've so well, taught them so well, to help you control what is an excitable, tricky situation.
Yeah, so I get that then. So really, it's a bit like babies turning into children, turning into adolescents. So none of us really find adolescents very appealing, but when they're babies and they're cute and they're saying their first words, we're all very adoring. So
We're all over them.
this is how the behaviour is grown, and
Absolutely.
they're just wanting to say hello to all these people who they think absolutely have come to see them.
Totally.
I've got it. Okay, so hopefully that was a useful idea for trying to stop that.
Good boy.
The other thing I notice a lot of people seem to struggle with when they're out on a walk, a lot of people often say to me, "Oh, I wish I could stop my dog from pulling," and they're walking along with their dog leading them along like this and say, "Well, he just won't walk by my side." So first of all, what do you think the dog is thinking, and why is he doing that? Why is the dog thinking, "I want to be ahead of her"?
Well,
or him?
the most obvious thing is the incentive. You're taking your dog out for a reason, and usually we're taking them to a field or a park or somewhere nice to give them a free run. Wouldn't you want to get there quickly? So basically the dog has learnt the route, it knows where it's going, and it says, "Come on, we can do this at 100 miles an hour. The sooner I get there, the sooner I get let off." So the aim is really to try and teach your dog, yes, you will get to that end point, but it's how you get there that's important. So again, using food, using toy, using the spin game that we did a couple of sessions ago, anything to reward your dog beside you rather than rewarding forward movement. Your dog has got to learn that right by your side is a really fun, nice place to be with the lead not being tight. As soon as your dog's in an advanced position, he's in control, he's dictating the speed and the pace and also the behaviour along the way. So really got to make being beside you with an uber tasty treat the best place to be. And that way your dog will stop pulling.
So I'm thinking, so that when he does get ahead of you, what would you do initially or immediately then, once he is ahead?
Again, I would use the words that we taught them in an earlier lesson, name and come. So Van, come, to encourage my dog to the side. Once he's held that side position for a few paces forward, I would then pop in a treat. So he's learning, staying beside me gets rewarded, not just coming back to my side. So you're moving it on from the spin, which was being rewarded, to coming to my side, to then holding that position. And then you've got to slowly develop the holding position. So don't go 10 paces and not reward, go 5 paces initially, and then increase it to 10, and then increase it to 20. And before you know it, you've got a dog that will remain by your side because he's happy to be there and he's looking up, waiting for the next treat.
So, and just again, when he is ahead of you, would you actually stop and then call him?
You can stand still. There's lots of things you can do. You have to do something that suits you and suits your dog. Standing still and calling them back is the easiest way to deal with it without getting in a pickle with the lead and the dog and anybody else that might be on the pavement. So just hold your ground, call them back. As they drop into position beside you, start moving forward, talk to your dog, communicate with your dog that, wow, he's doing something really nice, pop in a treat.
And I would probably say it's the same with all of these things that you're suggesting, which are brilliant, is don't expect it to happen immediately. You know, don't expect to only have to do that once or twice.
Absolutely.
You probably have to spend several walks.
Absolutely. It's a learning process, and you've got to remember a free run is much more exciting than walking beside mum or dad. So you've got to make walking beside mum or dad, you know, as exciting as being let off in a field or a park to have a good sniff and a play with his mates. It takes a lot of hard work to get that end result.
But very worth it.
But very worth it. Van, out of there. Come on, you're going to knock the table over.
Okay, so another little common thing that people have said to me is if their dog is displaying unsettled behaviour in the house, i.e. when they sit down at night to watch the TV, or if they've got guests around visiting and they're wanting to sit and chat to their guests and they're wanting the dog to be quiet, and the dog is becoming very unsettled and jumping around and perhaps whining. And it's quite irritating if you've decided you want to sit and watch TV but your dog is jumping all over you or whining. First of all, why do you think the dog is doing that? What's in his head?
Okay, so you've settled down for the evening and you're watching the television. The dog that's been centre of attention all day is suddenly no longer centre of attention. That funny square thing in the corner is. You're all focused on that, or Dad's reading a paper, you're reading a book, suddenly your dog is no longer centre of attention. So he goes into attention seeking mode. And, they'll jump at you, they'll push a toy at you, they'll whine, they'll bark, they'll do anything to get your attention. So it's really understanding that, a dog has got to learn to switch off, it's got to learn to relax. And as you've probably noticed here, I've got Van on the lead at the moment. We never think of using the lead indoors. Have an old lead stuffed under the cushion on the sofa, and when your dog's starting to pester, you can very quietly get the lead out, clip it on, and just ask him to settle. You don't necessarily want him to crash out and go to sleep, because you can see Van here has got a nice bone to chew. He can occupy himself, he can keep himself busy chewing a bone, but he's no longer demanding attention from you. Again, this is an exercise that you will have to repeat to make perfect, but this is the principle of using the lead indoors to get that best behaviour.
It's really interesting. And so, say if you had visitors visiting and they were all sitting around chatting, would you do exactly the same thing?
Exactly the same thing. You've got visitors coming around for a cup of tea and a bit of cake at 3 o'clock. So at 5 to 3, anticipate it. Put your dog on the lead before they arrive, so it's not chaos that you're having to cure. You're already prepared for what could happen. And surprisingly, what happens is the dog soon learns that you are under a lot more control in a lot quieter, calmer and fun way than it becoming a good game of chase, catch the dog, put it on the lead, and he'll think, oh, I'll do that again. So we're looking for nice, quiet ways of controlling behaviour that we'd rather not have. And remember to, occasionally reward him. He's been settled now for ages, so I'm just going to pop a treat down on his mat at and he's not looking at the birds at the moment, but just reminding him that's a good place to be. I like you being settled there.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really interesting. Another problem I've thought of is that some dogs can be a bit possessive over their food and over their toys. And I'm wondering, obviously it's not a good way to be, especially if they have children in the house, for instance. You don't really want a dog to develop those sort of behaviours. So I wonder why the dog would be thinking he's needing to be possessive over his food, or what starts it.
There are lots of things that trigger these sort of behaviours, but some of the basic ones are being hungry. Labradors are greedy breed. They love their food. I call them waste disposal units. If you are giving your dog a standard amount of food and he's maintaining a nice weight, put some vegetables on his dinner to bulk up that dinner and make it feel like it lasts longer. So hunger can trigger possessiveness, but also teaching your dog to share. So going through that little exercise of calling your dog to a bowl, have 2 bowls. So he eats a little bit out of one bowl and then you produce another. So he takes his head happily out of that bowl and puts it into the second bowl. And 2 bowl exchange will teach your dog not to be possessive over his bowl. You can do the same with toys. Having 2 toys, similar value. I've got 2 balls on a rope here. And when he's playing with one, the other one is hidden behind my back. The game stops, I go still, and I produce the other one. So he naturally leaves and make that one he naturally leaves one for the other. And eventually, once he's got the idea of 2 toy tuggy, as I call it, he will leave one, play, go still. Oh, what's this? Was it distracted by the other? So he's learning to give the toy. Once he's got the idea of the game, we then put the word give in. But it is teaching your dog to exchange all the time. Exchange food for a food for more food, toy for another toy. So like for like. Van,
do you does it matter really what sort of a dog bowl your dog has as well? Because I know you did talk to me a bit earlier about a dog that you were called in to help.
What can often happen with dogs becoming possessive over their food is what we think is an amusing situation, especially these metal bowls that we all use. The dog's eating and the dog, in his enthusiasm, starts to push the bowl around the floor. We think it's funny that the dog's chasing his dinner, but actually your dog is getting quite frustrated by the fact that this bowl doesn't stay still and it's making him gulp and it's making him pursue his food and chase his food and worry that somebody else might get his food in the process. So we might just be doing something inadvertently that is actually creating our dog to be possessive about their food. So a non-slip bowl, or put your bowl on a bit of mat or something, just to stop it sliding around, will be a huge help to your dog whilst eating, and one less trigger for a possible creating possessive behaviour.
And one other thing that sometimes people have to deal with, and I know is quite a tricky one, is dogs who, when they're out on walks, will bark and charge at other dogs coming towards them, or people even, which then is thought of as being quite aggressive behaviour by anybody who's got this coming towards them, but it's quite embarrassing for the person who owns the dog. I just wondered if you know why it is the dog's doing that, what's in the dog's head, and if you've got any ideas of how she should cope with that.
Right, okay. This is quite a complex problem, and I would say to anybody that's listening that if you have got this issue, it's probably one that I would say you do need some professional help with. But I can touch on a few pointers that can at least sort of make you look at what you're doing and how you can help your dog get more confident in these situations. Often dogs that will run barking at people or run barking at other dogs, they look like they're being aggressive because their hackles are up and they're making a lot of noise, but actually they are scared. So the hackles up are just making them, I'm big and brave and I'm pretending to be something I'm not. And the voice is again a way of saying, stay away, give me some distance. So basically your dog is saying to you, I can't cope with this situation, and you're not in front, I'm in front, so actually I've got to deal with it. As soon as your dog is ahead of you and something occurs to it that it can't cope with, it's got one of two choices. It can either run back beside you and say, over to you, mum, or it says, okay, I'm out here, I'm not very happy about this, but I will deal with it in the only way I know. So it's an awful lot of dog language going on that we need to address. So first and foremost, don't keep putting your dog into that situation for it to keep practicing that behaviour. If you keep taking your dog out and letting your dog go ahead of you, knowing that you're going to meet people on the walk, your dog will just carry on doing this behaviour. It doesn't get better with practice. This is the one situation it will just get worse with. So the more you call your dog back and have your dog at your side, playing and interacting with your dog on the walk, the better it is for your dog. So if you see somebody appear on the horizon or coming around the corner, call your dog back and pop your dog on the lead so that it's not continuing to practice bad behaviour. Or I shouldn't say bad behaviour because it isn't. It's bad in our eyes, but it certainly is perfectly natural to a dog. Secondly, what we need to do is get our dogs more confident with other dogs. A lot of it is a lack of socialisation at a critical time in their life where possibly for some reason or other you weren't able to get your dog out at the right time and meet more dogs that fit, let them learn that dogs come in all shapes and sizes and all temperaments. They might have met a batch of grumpy dogs, which has just made your dog think, well, I'll get you before you get me. So there's lots of factors that actually create this behaviour in our dogs. So we've got to break it down, look at what caused the problem, look at how our dog's reacting, and take your dog out of that situation before we can actually make some progress. So successfully, what you need to do is free run your dog with a dog your dog does know and is happy and confident with, and get that person to meet you on a walk, not go to the park together, but actually meet you on the walk, so your dogs are coming together and your dog is learning to look out for somebody that is friendly rather than look out and be on the alert and scared all the time. And that's the way to build a better relationship, just meeting a dog that it knows and it's happy with. And it is one of those situations where you've just got to keep sometimes taking a step backwards, go to different places, so you'll have actually actively avoiding putting your dog in that situation. If you're on a quiet walk and you're coming to a corner in the walk, there's a junction and the track is going off to the left or the right, put your dog on the lead because you can't see around the corner. Try and anticipate your dog's behaviour. so that he's not getting it wrong. Call your dog back. Your dog will be 100% happier and much more likely to walk past that person and that dog if he is beside you, either on lead or using a toy or a treat to keep him with you. I personally would always put my dog on the lead in that situation. On the lead dog, if somebody sees a dog being put on the lead, it is a little bit of an unwritten rule in dog world that, okay, that dog must have a few issues. I will also put my dog on the lead, or I will give it a wide berth.
Yeah, it's good point. And also, if your dog is on the lead and it's still then deciding it's going to be really yappy at the dog as you're walking past, is there anything you can do to try and avoid that?
One of the best things you can do is give your dog space. Rather than passing, how I describe it, as dog to dog, put your dog on the other side of you, cross the road. Anything to give your dog a little bit of space away from the other dog or the person that it's not liking the look of. Perhaps it's somebody wearing a big coat or a hat, or often dogs will react to motorcyclists with their helmets on. So just give your dog some distance. Distract your dog. Get a toy out of your pocket and really work hard verbally as well as with the toy to get your dog past. Using your voice control to control the situation. If you go quiet on your dog will fill that gap. It'll say, oh mum, you're not giving me any support, I'll vent off my feelings again. So keep your dog busy, keep your voice on your dog, drive your dog past the situation and be thrilled with it when you get a few yards past and it's done well. So really fuss your dog up and play with it and tell it it's been fantastic. Build on small successes.
That's brilliant. So keep chatting basically to your dog.
Keep chatting.
Which actually brings me really nicely onto something else now. So I finished with what I considered to be common problems that a lot of people have to deal with. And I was going to go on to now some of the lessons that you taught us in the last 2 weeks. And I noticed that in the majority of the exercises, your advice was you only say this command and the name once each time you do the exercise, which obviously is opposite to chatting to your dog to keep it calm when you're facing something it's frightened of. So this is in a training scenario. So I just wondered why that was, because a lot of us will say to our dog, sit, and we'll go, sit. You say it 6 times, don't
Absolutely,
you?
we all
don't do it immediately.
I'm not immune to it.
So I was really interested to see in all these exercises, you always wrote in the theory and only do this once each time. Okay. So why was that, Alison?
Right. Okay. So we're all criminal of this particular training fault of repeating the command. The classic is sit, sit, sit. And not only do we say sit, 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 but we up the volume as well. Sit, sit, sit. So actually, what we're teaching our dog is that it doesn't have to do it at the first time of asking. You can say it 3 or 4 times before it thinks, oh, all right, then I will. Or it learns that you have to be, saying it really loudly before the dog says, oh, okay, she's got out of bed the wrong side this morning. So really think about sort of waiting. If you've asked your dog to sit, just wait him out or her out. So wait them out, and again, good dog for sitting. Now, if a dog does a slow sit and you keep rewarding with a treat a slow sit, your dog will continue to do a slow sit. So if it does a slow sit, I would just say good with my voice. I wouldn't actually follow up with a treat. But if it does a quick sit, I would go, oh, wow, good, feed, and really mark the quick one with probably 2 or 3 tasty pieces of food. So you're making a difference between, well, that was okay, but that was brilliant. The other classic way I describe to people to avoid repeating command and to avoid volume control is, I liken it to telling your children to get up in the morning. You say, time to get up. Get up. Will you get up now? And they know they don't have to get out of bed until you're at boiling point. And your dog, I'm afraid, learns exactly the same sort of, behaviour from our bad behaviour.
Yeah.
So it's one we all fall into.
Yeah. And they soon develop habits, I think,
they do.
as well, don't they?
They learn the bad things just as quickly as the good.
Yeah.
So they really do.
Because I noticed as well in something when we were talking about when you take your dog out for a walk, you were saying treat it random times, and sometimes put the lead on at unusual times in unusual places, and vary the direction you go on your walk?
Yeah.
And is this all in keeping with that, the dog anticipating all the time?
Dogs can, will anticipate our behaviour. They know our behaviour better than we do, right? So, and if you fall into the habit of walking around a lovely big field and always clipping your dog back at the same point at the end of the walk, your dog will soon learn to dawdle. It will learn to hang back. It will learn not to respond to you because it's seen the lead come out and you're going to get clipped on and go back home. So it's prolonging the walk. It's making that walk last longer. So yeah, just clip your dog on at any point of the walk. Let it off again. Keep the lead hidden around your neck, under your coat or in your pocket, and get your dog before you get the lead out and clip it on. So they're all just little tricks of the trade that avoid your dog anticipating your behaviour.
Yes, and again, avoid him doing things that you're going to have to be cross with. So
absolutely, it stays positive that way, doesn't it?
Avoiding him being able to get it wrong all the time.
It doesn't take much for us lot to get angry or cross or disappointed, and our dog will pick that up really, really quickly. They read our body language very quickly.
Yeah.
And if I was doing this, saying, "Will you come here?" Would you come anywhere near me? Not on your life, and neither will your dog.
Yeah. So always have a positive come command. Always that sing-songy come.
Absolutely.
So
even
they know
through
it's very.
teeth.
Look, even his ears pricked up when I did that. So it obviously worked.
It does.
But yeah. Another thing I was interested in was when you said about eye contact is quite important. On the recall is to have limited eye contact, and that it was fine to have eye contact initially when you're recalling them from a long way away, but when they get close to you, you said avoid eye contact and look at the place you want the dog to come. So what's the reasoning for that, and what is your dog thinking? I.e., why do you need to do that from your dog's point of view?
Definitely, I can see where you're coming from. The most important thing with eye contact is that it can change very, very quickly from being thrilled and positive and big open eyes that are your face is beaming, to I'm cold, I'm wet, I'm tired, and I'm really fed up, and I want to go home, and I'm late. And your dogs can see the real change in your facial expression and your eye contact. Now, on a recall, it's very hard to make a dog learn to come in close. So if we look at the dog, every step it comes towards us, and our eye contact might change from come on, hurry up, to like, wow, that's amazing. The dog's going to get slower and slower, and you think the eye contact is making the dog come to you, where actually it's the eye contact that's making your dog go slower because it's not sure whether you're pleased or not. So call your dog, drop your head and look at where you want your dog to come to. I can still see over there quite a bit without actually making eye-to-eye contact, and your dog will close the gap really quickly because it wants to regain that eye contact and regain your pleasure and your smile and the relationship that you've got.
Oh, that's really interesting. And something I'd never ever even considered. So I think it's fascinating. Another thing I noticed that you didn't ever use in any of your training lessons was the word stay or wait, which is something I've always learned and used on my dogs, and I was quite fascinated that you didn't do that. But I realised that the reward command was very the release command, I should say, was the important one. So is there a reason why we don't say stay or wait?
It's a choice. You can teach a stay, you can use wait if you want to, but if you think about it, when we've told our dogs to sit, until we tell them to do anything else, they actually shouldn't move from that sit position, which sounds slightly dictatorial, but the principle is I've told you to sit, and you're going to teach them to hold that sit for longer and longer and longer, and the exciting bit is waiting for the release. So you're having to say one word instead of two. So instead of saying sit and stay, you're just saying sit, and it makes it very clear to the dog that that's what you want until I been and peg the washing on the line and I come back and I release you. That's the position you should maintain. But the release has to be fun. It's got to be something to look forward to. It's got to be something worth working for. So incremental, expectations are really important.
Yeah. And I noticed you always used the same commands, and your release command was always okay. So I'm assuming, and I think you did say this a lot, is practice your words, know what words you're going to use, and to stick with it and be consistent with what your instructions are going to be to the dog, because it's easier for him to understand.
Absolutely. And Van, bless him, has been brilliant for this, because I use a certain set of words with my own dogs, and Canine Partners use a set of words for their dogs. And you've probably noticed on a few of the videos, I have actually switched words going through, which, everything, don't do as I do as I advise, please, because I'm just struggling with Van's different list of commands. But yes, it is important to be consistent and to say the same word, to always say okay if that is your release command in a nice fun way, so that your dog fully understands what's expected of it. There's no grey areas.
I guess the aim is really that we're just wanting our dog to feel totally secure, and a secure dog is a happy dog. And
but if they understand you and they get rewarded for good behaviour, that behaviour is going to be repeated because the dog enjoys doing it, because it's a cycle. You're then happy, he's happy, the world's great, and you've got a lovely happy dog.
Yeah, that's great. And then there was one other thing I noticed. Most of the exercises, apart from the ping pong exercise, you always had Van on the lead.
Right, yeah.
And is there a reason for always using the lead when you're doing these training exercises?
When you're starting the dog, be it a puppy, be it a dog that's new to you as an older dog, or just teaching a new exercise, always start that new exercise on the lead, because that way your dog doesn't understand what you're trying to teach it. You might not be very good at it first time round, so there's a bit of faffing about going on. And your dog is not able to walk away. You can just say, "Oh, sorry, mate. Let's try again. I'll try harder to get it better next time." But it's important that by being on the lead, you're making error-free learning. You're trying to make that learning process easy to understand. If the dog doesn't make a mistake, you're not having to iron mistakes out. So on the lead, always for the first stages of learning any new exercise, really creates a nice error-free learning situation. Again, makes it fun, makes it pleasurable. It's quick learning and everybody's happy.
So basically, when you are training a dog, you need a massive amount of patience
Oodles.
and being prepared to put in lots of hard work and time and consistency.
Definitely.
Which
Time
I
is
think
the key.
often a lot of us don't have, but the rewards are so fantastic when you do.
When you
It's
get
so
it right.
worth it
Yeah, it's
for
lovely.
you and for the dog.
There's
For a lot of years.
There's nothing nicer than seeing we all, watch a bit of dog training on the television, or whatever level or whatever the job is. We're all in awe of dogs that do their job well, and that has taken time and effort. And your pet dog can be just the same within the sphere that you want him to work with. He can do his sit really well. He can do his down really well. So you can take him to the pub. You can take him to visit friends. You can take a well-behaved, well-trained dog anywhere.
Yeah, which is great. I noticed on today's post in the do's, Alison, that you'd written, be mindful of using the word good appropriately. Just wonder, could you just say what you meant about that?
As humans, we're great ones for using good to encourage better behaviour in our children, or in other situations, and we do tend to use it with our dogs as well. To give you a scenario, bonfire night, noisy, lots of fireworks going off, and we tend to use it as a reassuring word. So, good boy, it's okay, it's only noisy, we're explaining our way through whatever's happening. It's only noisy old firework, it's good boy, it'll be all right. And we're actually saying good boy when our dog is scared. So you're praising your dog for being scared. So try and think about, at the point you're saying good, is it actually appropriate? Is it getting what you want from your dog? You're better to distract or not say anything than to say good inappropriately.
Because good is a reward word, really, isn't it?
It's a positive.
You're praising him for doing something good.
Yeah.
So you can reassure and chat away, but not say good, because good is something that you're saying when they're doing something well or good or right.
Absolutely, reassurance is important, but avoid using the word good.
So I guess if your dog is walking along the road and you're trying to stop him barking at another dog coming the other way, instead of reassuring him by saying, "It's all right, good boy,"
Yeah,
you don't
we've
want to
got it.
you avoid the word
Yeah.
good. Is
So you
what we're
basically say
saying,
good boy for barking at the dog.
Yeah.
So you really look at how you're using the word good.
yeah. Oh,
Brilliant.
that's good. Yeah, it's interesting.
You've done it. Lovely.
The other thing I just wanted to ask you, slightly concerned me. In all the exercises we did, we're using a lot of treats to reward, and I'm just thinking, being very mindful of myself about making sure my dogs have a healthy diet and don't get overweight. All the treats we're using in these exercises, should we be thinking about how we're using them or how much?
It's important. You know, there's dogs are like us. You know, it doesn't take much to get a bit porky, a bit fat. So it is important that, you know, when we're using treats, that we balance the quantity of treats we're using that day and withdraw that quantity from their main diet. You could use their food as their treats, you know, for what I call standard basic training. But remember that your high value treats are usually also high in calories because they're a bit tastier. And remember to reduce your dog's diet accordingly.
Yeah, good advice, good advice. Thank you. And then the final thing I wanted to just ask, because I'm sure that a lot of people who have been watching the training videos may be wondering, are these training videos only suitable for puppies? Is it only puppies we can teach these things to, or would they suit any dog of any age?
Definitely, definitely. You can always teach an old dog new tricks. And, you know, a lot of people are really good at taking on older rescue dogs, perhaps a dog within a family. There's been a bereavement and they've taken on someone else's family dog. So, you know, whatever the age, whatever the dog's ability, what it does know at that stage, you can always improve upon. So yep, definitely teach an old dog new tricks and give it a go.
Yeah, that's good. And I think you'll get good behaviour out of your dogs as long as you're giving them the attention and the
Absolutely.
training on a daily basis.
You know, the dog will soon learn that it's worth its while, it's positive, it gets rewarded for it. And, you know, with a new dog, it's a good way of building a good relationship and a good bond between you and that dog. It's there for life then.
Well, I just all remains to be said now is thank you so much, Alison, because
Thank you.
I've learned so much, and that's me thinking who I thought I knew a lot about dogs. I've learned so much over the last 2 weeks just doing these, and thank you for all the effort you've put into doing all of these videos and writing up all the theory for me, and it's been really, really useful, and thank you on behalf of all our Facebook followers as well.
Lovely. No, it's been a pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thanks.